Hello everyone, welcome back to another video of Code Pravah. Let's dive into another awesome ReactJS project. As we know, Apple has just launched iOS 26 with the new liquid glass design. So today, we are building a sleek music player in ReactJS inspired by that look. It's a perfect project for React learners, creative, useful, and easy to follow. So let's get started. So let's quickly jump into my VS Code where I have created one React application with the name of music player. And in my app component, I'm just rendering one hello world as you can see it here. So first thing first, I'll create one folder into my source directory with the name of components. And inside this components directory, I'll create one component with the name of music player. Let's quickly initialize this component and it's just printing a div with the name of music player. I'll go into my app component and I'll import that music player. And instead of this h1 tag, now I'll be rendering my music player component and it's being rendered here. So let's start working on this music player app. So I'll remove this div and I'll create one div with the class name of music player container. Inside this div, I'll create one h1 tag and I'll say music player. And just to give it a good look, I have copied one emoji which is of speaker, and now you can see it's rendering perfectly. Now inside the parent div, I'm going to create another div with the class name of music player wrapper. And inside this div, I'll create another div with the name of music player content. Now this is the actual div which will be containing the information about music, for example the cover image, title of the song, artist name, and some controls. So let's implement them one by one. So I'll create one image element with the class name of music cover, and this will contain the cover image for the music. And just below this image, I want to show my title. So in order to wrap my title, I'll create a div with the class name of title wrapper. And inside this div element, I'll create one h2 tag with the class name of track title. For now, I'll put one dummy text that is title, which is being rendered here. Now, after this title element, I'll create one paragraph and this will contain the name of artist. So I'll create one class on this paragraph with the name of track artist. And for now, let's put one dummy content with the name of artist. After my title and artist, I want to put some controls like play pause, previous song, next song. So I'll create one div with the class name of controls. Now, in order to display my controls, I need few buttons. So I'll not create it right away here. Instead, I'll create one more component with the name of icon button because these buttons will be containing some icon. So I'll name it icon buttons. Now I'll create one icon button component and this component will receive two kind of property. One is src. This will represent the icon path which you want to display on the button, and then on click handler because I want to listen whenever any click event is happening on this button. So from this component, I will be simply returning one button and I'll bind the click event with the function of onClick which I'm receiving in the props. And then inside this button, I will render one image and the src I'll be receiving from props. And for the alternative tag, I'll just say icon button and I have to set the width and height for this icon. So for now, I'll go with 24, which looks fine for me. Now, if I import this component into my music player component, I have to pass the src again and again. So I'll create 4 small components here itself. For example, I'll create one play component and this will only receive the on click prop. And this component will further call icon button component, which I just created here. And this component requires src and on click. So on click I can pass because I am receiving into the prop. And for the second prop, that is src, I need to pass the path of icon. So I have downloaded few icons which you can see next, pause, play, and previous. You can download any SVG or image if you want. And I am going to simply use those icons here. So for the src, I know this is the play component. So I need the play icon. So I'll go to my icons because it is into public folder. So I can directly access my inner folder that is icons. And the name is play.svg. And I'll copy this component and I'll paste it 3 more times. One will be for play, then for pause, and the third component will be for next, and the last component will be for previous. And all the components will receive this on click. Just the difference is they will be containing some different icons. For example, for pause, it will be pause.svg. For the next, it will be next.svg, and for the previous, it will be previous.svg. So from this icon buttons component, I'll export all these 4 tiny components such as play, pause, next, and previous. So I'll go to my music player component and I'll import all the 4 components which I just created into my icon buttons, and they are play, pause, next, and previous. Simple. Now let's work on this controls part. The 3 buttons I want to show is previous, play, and next. So I'll say previous, and it requires on-click function, which I don't have currently implemented. So I'll pass one empty function here. And then I need one play button. Similar to previous, it also needs that on-click functionality. For the next button, I'll just copy it and paste it, and the component name will be next. So as you can see, they are being rendered here. I don't know if you are able to see it or not. They are actually into the white colors. So let's work on the CSS part to give them an attractive look. So I'll go to my app.css, and I have already written some global CSS as you can see here. So I'm going to remove this text alignment center from this body, and I want to change my background first. It is looking white, and I want to change something attractive where I can see my glass effect. So I have downloaded one image from the internet which is looking like this. So let me use it here. So I'll use the background property, and I can use this URL property which requires the path of your actual image, which is bg.jpg. So I'll go into my public folder, and inside that my bg.jpg is existing. So you can see it's rendering here, but it is not looking the way it was looking into the preview. So what I can do now, I can say the background size I want to cover. So as you can see, the background has been applied here, and my content is not purely visible because they are into the black color and the background image is dark. So we'll work on that. For now, let me choose my font, and I'll choose this one as my font, and it's not visible. So let's work on the next part. I'll put it here. So the first class on which I want to work is music player container. So I'll paste it here as a class, and I'll say the min height I want for this container is 100 VH. Then I want to display all the items as flex, and I want to use the flex direction as column. And then I want to align my items to center and justify my content to center as well. So as you can see, now my content is vertically and horizontally centered. One more thing I would like to perform is color. I'll say I want to choose one whitish type of color. So it will provide you a soft white color look, which is looking fine for me. So the next part on which I want to work is music player wrapper. So I'll copy it from here, and again I'll paste it here. And this time I'll say the width I want to utilize is 100%, but I want to constrain myself to a max width of 400 pixel. And then I'll say the padding I want is 1.5 rem from this container, and the background size I want cover. And because this wrapper is actually containing all the content which is inside this class music player content, so I'll copy the class name, and believe me, this will be the actual div which will be providing the glass look. So I'll say for this div is display as flex, and the flex direction I want is column. Then I want to align my items to center, and it's not visible right now. So first thing I'll implement for this is border. So I'll say border 1 pixel solid, and the color I will choose is white, but I don't want full white color. So I'll reduce its opacity to 0.35, which will be not giving a very vibrant look in terms of white, and it's good for me. So let's set the background for this. So background I want is again white, but at the same time I don't want full white color because nothing will be visible for me. So I'll need to set it to transparent. I'll reduce the opacity, and I'll keep very minimal opacity to 0.01. And in order to give it an actual glass look, I need to apply some backdrop filter. So I'll say backdrop filter, and this time I want to blur the background, and I don't want too much blur, because if I'll perform too much blur, that will not match to what we are trying to achieve. So I'll keep it 2 pixels only. So you can see a little bit of blur effect has been applied here. And then as you can see, the contents are sticking onto this border. So I need to apply some padding. So I'll say padding 2 rem from vertical and 1.5 rem from horizontal side. And the border is very sharp. So I'll say border radius I want is 20 pixel. At the same time, I want to apply some box shadow to this to give it a proper realistic glass kind of effect. Let's go to our next component, that is music cover, and currently we are not rendering anything here, so I'll put one dummy link here in order to just display one cover image, and we have to work on this cover. So I'll copy this class name and I'll paste it here, and the image is looking too big, so I need to set its width and height. So I'll say 160 pixel of width in same size of height as well. And then I want the rounded corners, so I'll say border radius of 16 pixel, which will match with the current theme which we are trying to apply. And of course, I'll also apply some box shadow to this image. And then I'll apply one property, that is object fit as cover. And it is sticking into this title. So I'll say margin from bottom of, let's say, 1 rem. Then our next part is this title wrapper. So I'll copy this class name and I'll paste it here. And I'll say width 100%. You have to utilize the full width, but you have to hide the overflow. And then we have this track title. I'll copy it, I'll paste it here, and I'll say the font size I want to use for this title is 1.4 rem, and the font weight I want to use is 600. And I want margin from the top and bottom, so I'll say 0.5 rem of margin from vertical. And in case of any white space, I want to use no wrap property because I don't want to break to my next line. The next part on which I want to work is this track artist. So I'll copy it and I'll again paste it here, that is track artist. And for this artist, I'll say font size I want to use is 0.9 rem. And the color I want to use for this title is a lighter white. And then I want to apply some margin to downside because it is sticking into these buttons. So I'll say margin bottom, and this time let's say 2 rem. Then let's go on to the controls part where we are displaying this button. So for this controls class, I'll say display of flex, and then I want to maintain a gap between all of these buttons of, let's say, 2 rem. Then inside this control class, we have all these buttons because this previous next all are the buttons. So I can say controls, and inside this controls class, whatever button is there, I want to write some style for them. So I'll say display as flex. And for these buttons, I want to set the background. And again, I want glassy kind of background. So I'll give it a white color of background with the opacity of 0.05. And for these buttons, I'll set the border as 1 pixel solid and white, and this time again I'll reduce the opacity to 0.25. These buttons are looking very small, so I'll apply some padding from all the corners of 0.75 rem. And I want these buttons to be rounded, so I'll say border radius as 50%. And then I'll say cursor as pointer. And we should not forget, because we are applying the glass kind of look, so we need to apply backdrop filter again here. And this time again, I'll say blur of 2 pixel. But there is no any hover effect. So I'll simply copy this selector and I'll say on hover. And what I want to change the background and the border. So I'll copy both things from here and I'll paste it. And in case of hover effect, I want to double the background opacity, which will be 0.1. And I want to increase the color of the border. So now if I perform hover effect, it is working fine for me. So we are almost done with CSS. Let's go and work onto this actual music player. In order to make this music player working, we need some actual music. So as you can see, inside my public folder, I have created another folder with the name of songs. And inside this songs folder, I have 5 songs which I have downloaded from internet. And I am maintaining one data folder which is having a file as tracks.js. And inside this file, I have created one array of songs, and each song is containing one title, the name of artist, the cover image which I have used from Pixabay website, and of course the URL for that song which is sitting into my songs directory, and this is the name of song. So this is how I have maintained it. You can use any third-party API or you can download your own song. Just to avoid the copyright issues, I have downloaded some free musics. So let's go into my music player. Before that, you can see I have also exported this tracks array from this file. So I can go back into my music player component and I can import the tracks array from data/tracks, and I will need one useState hook here. So I'll import it from the React library. So I'll create one state with the name of current track and initialize it with 0, and this state will track the index of the particular song which is currently into play. And then I'll create another state with the name of isPlaying, which will say to us if the song is being played or not. And initially it will be false because we will not be playing any song by default. Now, in order to handle the 3 events on these 3 buttons, I need few functions. So I'll create one function to handle play and pause. So I'll say handle play pause, and this function will simply toggle the state of isPlaying state. Then I'll create another function which will handle the next click. So I'll say handle next, and what this function will be doing, this will update the current track to the next track, that is current track plus 1. And in order to handle the overflow, I will simply use ampersand, and I can use the length of tracks from tracks.length. What does it means? If I have 5 songs and if you're trying to access the 6th song which is not available at all, it will be again starting from 0. So that's why I have applied ampersand here. And then we will have another function to handle the previous. So I'll say handle previous, and in this function also we'll be setting the current track. So I'll say set current track, but this time I need to check if the current track is 0. It means user is at the very first song, and if he's pressing the previous button, we should lead him to the last song. So in this case, I'll say set the current track to track's length -1, and if it is not the case, I'll simply subtract 1 from the current track. So let's use these functions into these 3 icon buttons. So in case of previous click, I can simply call handle previous, and in the case of next click, I'll say handle next. And now in order to display this play component, I need to apply one check, that is if it is playing, then we have to display the pause component, and if it is not playing, it means the song is already paused. In that case only I want to show this play component. So this pause component will resolve its on-click event on this handle play pause, and similarly I'll bind this play component with the same function, that is handle play pause. So now if I show you here, if I click on the play, it is converting into the pause, and I can toggle it again and again. But still we are showing this title and artist as static text. So what we can do now, we know that this tracks array is containing all the list of songs along with other information. So I can access the current song or current song information using this current track index, and it will return the information about the current song such as title, artist, cover and source. So I can grab those values like this, and instead of showing my title in this way, I can use the title variable which I just grabbed out of that tracks array, and instead of this artist, I'll display my artist like this. And because I am showing my cover as an static URL, and now I can replace this as this cover, and for the alternative tag I can say cover image. So as you can see, it is showing the text, the artist name and the cover, and if I click on next, it is working fine. And if I am clicking next, it is handling perfectly. And similarly, if I am clicking on back, it is handling all the edge cases. Now we have to play the actual music. How can we do that? In HTML, there is one audio tag, which I'm going to just write here as audio, and it requires src, which takes the source of that audio file, which I am getting it here. I can use this src, and there is one property which I want to use, that is preload. Every audio file has some metadata, and this metadata contains some information like the volume, length and other properties. So I'll use it simply here, and I'll import use a ref hook from my React library, and I'll create one ref variable as audio ref, and initially it will be null. And what I'm going to do, I'll bind the ref for this audio with that audio ref which we just created. Now using this audio ref, I can perform multiple operations like play, pause, skip, seek, all these kind of information you can read into the document. But currently I am only interested into play and pause. So I'll import useEffect hook from the React library and I'll implement it right over here. And inside this useEffect hook, I want to play and pause my song, which is at the current track. So of course, in my dependency array, I need my current track and one more dependency that is playing, because this state will define if my song is in the play state or pause state. So let's write code here. So I'll say if playing, it means if the playing state is on, I'll say audio ref dot current and I want to play it. But in the other case, I don't want to play it. So I'll say audio ref dot current dot pause. So it means if it is not playing, keep the audio as pause state. Let's give it a try. If I click on the play button, if I click next button, now we have to work on small thing. That is, if you see, the title is longer. If I go into my tracks.js, that is brain implant, this one, and this one is a bigger title and it is not getting fit into this. And we have seen in almost all the music player, there is an animation in which the title goes from left to right, and I want to implement the same here. So I'll go back to my CSS and the track title, which is displaying this title. I'll write one animation here and I'll say scroll my title, and I want this for 10 seconds, and I want this to be linear, and I want this to be infinite. So I'll write keyframes for this animation. So I'll say scroll title, and at 0%, I would say I want to use transform property and I want to translate into X direction by 100%, which is very, very fine. And at 100%, I again want to use this transform property, but at this time I want to translate into X direction by negative of 100%. So if you see now, the title is being animated from left to right, and if I go back, it's working for all the titles. And if I play, it's working. Let me pause it, and it's working fine. If I give it a bigger look, it's looking nice, and we can see the glass effect is working fine. Now, what we can do into the next step? In the next step, we can show one timeline here, the song's timeline, at what second the current song is there. We can add forward and backward property for a current song. Also, we can add one volume rocker, by using which we can increase or decrease the volume of the current song. I'll say to all of you, if you can do it by yourself, that will be very good. If you're not able to do, let me know into the comment section. I'll make the second part of this video where we will be creating all these features which will make it as a powerful music player. So we are done with this video, and if you really learned something new from this video, please give a like to this video, share it with your friends, and if you are still watching till here, let me know into the comment section, and thanks for watching.